Okay, so this question asks to compute the value of the integral 1 to e 2x ln x dx. This is using a UMB, the UV substitution thing. So if you remember it, it's Lyot, logarithmic, inverse trig, algebraic, trig, and exponential. And you choose the leftward order to choose u. So we see 2x and ln x. 2x is algebraic function and ln x is logarithmic function. So our u would be logarithmic function, which is ln x. So u equals ln x, and the derivative of that du would be 1 over x dx. And we put all the rest of the stuff other than u in dv form. So 2x dx will equal to dv. So our b would be x squared if you integral it. Okay, we have that, and then you use ub minus b du formula to integrate this thing. So u is ln x, and b is x squared ln x minus x squared 1 over x dx. So this becomes x squared ln x minus x dx. So this just becomes x squared ln x minus x squared over 2, integrating from 1 to e. Okay, now let's just plug it in. E squared ln e minus e squared over e squared over 2 minus 1 ln 1 minus 1 over 2. So this just becomes e squared, because ln e just cancels out, minus e squared over 2 minus ln 1 plus 1 over 2. ln 1 is just 0, so this is just nothing. So this just becomes 2 e squared plus 1, which is c. Okay, this question asks which of the following is the value of the integral x squared over x squared plus 1 dx. This is kind of funky one. You have to think about this question. X squared over x squared plus 1. You can rewrite this equation as 1 minus x squared 1 over x squared plus 1. If you do this side, this is just same as x squared plus 1, x squared plus 1 minus 1. So which is same as x squared over x squared plus 1. We are changing into this form in order to make it easy to compute. So 1 minus 1 over x squared plus 1 dx. So 1 dx minus 1 over x squared plus 1 dx. This is just x, right? And if you remember 1 over x squared plus 1 integral, this is just tangent minus 1x. If you remember tangent minus 1x, which is inverse tangent. Inverse tangent is just 1 over x squared plus 1 as a derivative. So if you remember this becomes a really easy question. So x minus tangent minus 1x, and then don't forget to plus c, because there's no bounds, so meaning it's an indefinite integral. So you have to put plus c, and this is just x minus inverse tangent x plus c, which is a. Okay, so this question asks which of the following is the value of the integral. So we see integral cosine cube x and then square root of sine x dx. And we're going to decompose cosine cube x into cosine squared x and then cosine x and then square root of sine x dx. The reason that we are decomposing cosine as cosine squared and cosine, because we see cosine is cubed, which meaning one of the cosine x dx will be our du, because we're going to put u as sine x. So whenever you see odd number of cosine or odd number of trigonometric functions inside of the integrand, that shouldn't be your u. Your u will be the other one that has that doesn't have the odd number, meaning our u would be sine x in this case. And if you do the derivative of that, which is cosine x dx. So we see cosine x dx, this just becomes du in our function, and this square root of sine x will just become square root of u. And then cosine squared of x, we can change that into 1 minus sine squared x, right? Because trig identity, cosine squared x plus sine squared x is equal to 1. Cosine squared x is same as 1 minus sine squared x. So this just becomes 1 minus sine squared x. And then we know we put u as sine x. So this just becomes 1 minus u squared times u 1/2 du. Okay, so now let's multiply u half in, you can just distribute u 1/2. So u 1/2 minus u 5/2 du. And then if you integrate, then this becomes u 3/2 to the power, and then 2/3 minus u 2/7 power times 2/7 plus c. And then we have to put we have to put our sine x back to u. So this just becomes 2/3 sine x 3/2 power minus 2/7 sine x 7/2 power plus c. So this just equals to our answer choice E. Okay, this question asks which of the following is the value of the integral inverse tangent of x dx. So let's write inverse tangent minus 1x dx. So the easy way to solve this question is using UB sub. So how do you use UB when you only see like tangent minus 1x? So what you do is tangent minus 1x times 1. This is the same thing as tangent minus 1x because it's just multiplied by 1, right? And then you write Lyot formula, Lyot, logarithmic, inverse trig, algebraic, and trig, and exponential. We see inverse trig and algebraic as 1. So we can do our u as tangent minus 1x, and then find the derivative of that, which is 1/x² plus 1 dx, and we put db as 1 dx. So this becomes b as x. So then this becomes ub minus b du. ub is tangent minus 1x times x minus x times 1/x² plus 1 dx as du. So this just becomes x tangent minus 1x, and then this becomes x/x² plus 1 dx. And now we have to do another integration. So for this one, we can do u sub. So we put another u, or actually it's u sub, but let's put another variable since we already used u. Let's put a. A equals x² plus 1. So then dA would be 2x dx, but we just want, x dx. So x dx, dA/2. So since we just only want x dx, we just divide 2 on both sides. That's why we get dA/2. Okay, so we have everything. X tangent minus 1x minus, dA/2, and then 1/a. So x tangent minus 1x minus 1/2 can come out because it's a constant. 1/2, 1/a, dA. This just becomes x tangent minus 1x minus 1/2 ln a plus c. And let's put a back to our equation. So this just becomes, I'm just going to write it in here. This just eventually becomes x tangent minus 1x minus 1/2 ln x² plus 1 plus c. That's our final answer. So that is our answer choice C. Okay, so this question asks how much work is done pumping all of the water out of the pool, and the pool is the cube, not a cube, but cube size rectangular prism. So, okay, let's write it down. So swimming pool, it's looking like prism like this, and then it's 50 meter long, 25 meter wide, and 2 meter deep. It's not like accurate prism, but let's just redraw it then. Okay, something like this. Rectangular prism, 50 meter, 25 meter, 2 meter. Let's go. Okay, and it's filled with water, and we want to find the work. So work is integral of force function times distance. And force function can be found by the gravity, volume, and density. Density, volume, gravity, sorry. So, and we are given density is 1000 kilogram per meter per cubed, and we need to find the volume, and we know that gravity is 10 meter per second squared. So in order to find our volume, since we already know that the swimming pool is kind of like the prism shape, so this will just become 50 times 25 for our base, and then change of height dh. That will be our volume. So just put that volume in the function, 1000 kilogram per meter per cubed, 50 25 dh times 10 meter per second squared. And if you look at the answer choices, it's all in like 25 squared, so we don't want to compute the variables. So what we're going to do is 1000 and 10, we're going to write as 10,000. And then 50 is 25 times 2, and it's 25, so and dh. So we just split 50 into 25 times 2 in order to make kind of like similar to the answer choice. So this just becomes 10,000 times 2, 20,000 times 25 squared dh. Okay, we have that. And then we have to find the distance. Since we don't know how much is the distance for the height, we're just gonna put as h. So we have work as 20,000 times 25 squared dh times the distance as h. So this just becomes integrating 20,000 25 squared dh times h, and it's integrated from 0 to 2 because it's 2 meters steep. So yeah, like that, and the constant, all of the constants will come out. So it's becoming as 20,000 times 25 squared 0 to 2 h dh, and 20,000 25 squared h squared over 2 0 to 2. So 20,000 times 25 squared times this just becomes 2. So this ultimately becomes 40,000 times 25 squared. So, and that's just joules because work is done always in joule. So this becomes the answer choice D. Okay, this question asks to compute the integral from 2 to 3 x plus 5 over x squared plus x minus 2 dx. So let's write it down first. X plus 5, x squared plus x minus 2 dx from 2 to 3. What you're going to do for this question is you're going to use the decomposition technique. So we see x squared plus x minus 2 as a denominator, which we can write this as x plus 2, x minus 1, right? And you can write x plus 5 over x squared plus x minus 2 is equal to x plus 2, x minus 1, x plus 5, right? And then now we're going to decompose this equation as x plus 2a plus b over x minus 1. We don't know a and b value, and we're going to find that value in order to make it easier to integrate this equation or integral. So we have this, and if you want to get rid of the denominator, what we are going to do is multiply x squared plus x minus 2 on both sides. And this just becomes x plus 5 equals a x minus 1 plus b x plus 2. And what you're going to do for now is plug in the numbers in x in order to find a and b value. So I'm going to put x equals 1. So the reason that I'm going to be choosing x equals 1 is if you put x equals 1, you're going to cancel out one of the variable a, and you're only going to be left with b, so which is easier to find the value for b. But you don't have to use this technique if you don't want to, but personally I think it's really easy to just plug it in the values that makes one variable 0. So if you plug in x equals 1, this just becomes 6 equals 3b. Because, a cancels out by x minus 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. A times 0 is 0. That's why we are just left with b variable. And if you plug it in x equals 1, in the x plus 2, this becomes 3. So now, then b is 2. We got the b value. And we're going to use x equals -2 value in order to make b 0 now. So plug it in -2 in the left side, and this becomes 3. And this becomes -3a. And a becomes -1. Now, we have all those a and b value. And we're going to write it back in the equation or integrand. So this is just -1 over x plus 2 plus 2 over x minus 1 dx. And we're going to separate this as 2 from 2 to 3, -1 over x plus 2 dx plus 2 over x minus 1 dx 2 to 3. And for this stuff, -1 over x plus 2 is just same as -ln x plus 2 integrated from 2 to 3, and the second part will be the same as 2 ln x minus 1 integrated from 2 to 3. If you remember ln x is just same as 1 over x, which is why we get -ln x plus 2 2 to 3 plus 2 ln x minus 1 from 2 to 3. Now let's just plug it in. -ln 5 and then minus ln 4 plus 2 ln 2 minus 2 ln 1. So this just becomes -ln 5 plus ln 4 plus 2 ln 2 minus 2 ln 1, which -2 ln 1 is just 0 because ln 1 is already 0. So, and you can write 2 ln 2 as the exponent form, meaning the 2 in front of the ln 2 can actually go up to the power. So this will become ln 4. So this becomes -ln 5 plus ln 4 plus ln 4. Yeah, we have double plus sign, we don't want that. And now you're using the logarithmic rules. ln 4 plus ln 4 is just multiplying to each other, ln 4 times 4. And then -ln 5 is dividing. So this meaning so ln 4 times 4 and then divided by 5. So this just becomes ln 16 over 5. So the answer for this question is A. Okay, this question has integral square root of 2 to 2, 1 over x cubed, square root of x squared minus 1 dx. Which of the following integrals will be generated by this substitution? Okay, we have this question, so let's write it down first. Square root of 2 to 2, 1 over x cubed, square root of x squared minus 1 dx. We have that, and if you remember it, x squared minus a squared is same as x equals a secant theta. Using the same logic, square root of x squared minus 1 will equal to x equals 1, because our a squared is 1, a is 1, so x equals 1 secant theta. So we have x equals secant theta, and let's find dx. dx would be secant theta, tangent theta, d theta. We have that, and now since x is secant theta, we can write it as 1 over cosine theta, and you can write it as cosine theta equals 1 over x. Theta is cosine minus 1, 1 over x. And let's plug it in our values. Theta is cosine minus 1, 1 over 2. This value is just pi over 3. Yeah, actually, let's try it. It is pi over 3, right? Right. I wasn't sure. So cosine minus 1 is 1 over square root of 2. That's pi over 4. Okay, we have those two values. And now let's just change all the integrals into data integrand and integrals. So the 2 just becomes pi over 3, and then square root of 2 becomes pi over 4. And then dx is just secant theta, tangent theta, d theta. And then x cubed is secant cube theta, square root of secant squared theta minus 1. And if you remember it, the trig identity, secant squared theta minus 1 is same as tangent squared. So you can change that into tangent squared from pi over 4 to pi over 3. Secant theta, tangent theta, d theta, secant cube theta, square root of tangent square. Tangent square and tangent will be cancelled out. And it's just left with tangent theta, right? And this tangent theta can be cancelled out by itself. And one of the secant will be cancelled out. So the denominator will be left with secant squared. So if you rewrite it, it's pi over 4, pi over 3, 1 over secant squared theta d theta. And this is just same as pi over 3, pi over 4, cosine squared theta d theta. And this just matches with our option E. Okay, this question asks 1 over x squared x minus 1 squared is equal to a over x plus b over x squared plus c over x minus 1 plus d over x minus 1 squared, and find the ABCD value. And it's a decomposition question. So let's write it first. 1 over x squared x minus 1 squared is equal to a over x plus b over x squared plus c over x minus 1 plus d over x minus 1 squared. Let's multiply x squared x minus 1 squared on both sides. This just becomes 1 over a x minus 1 squared plus b x minus 1 squared plus c x squared x minus 1 plus d x squared. So we have that, and now let's plug it in the numbers in x so we can get the ABCD value. Plug it in x equals 1. This will make a, b, c value cancelled out. So this will be just d equals 1, x equals 0. Plug it in. This will make it 1 equals, a will be cancelled out, b will have a coefficient of 1, c will be cancelled out, and d will be cancelled out because we all see x as like multiplied to each other. And x equals to 0, which makes the variables a, c, d cancelled out. Okay, let's try x equals 2 this time. 1 equals 2a plus b plus 4c plus 4d. Okay, and then plug it in x, b and d value as 1. 2a, so 2a plus 1 plus 4c plus 4 is equal to 1. 1 will be cancelled out. So this is just 2a plus 4c equal to negative 4. We have this equation. Let's try x equals 3. X equals 3, 1 equals 3a times 4 plus 4b plus 9c times 2 plus 9d. 1 equals 12a plus 4b plus 18c plus 9d. B and d values are both 1, so 1 equals 12a plus 4 plus 18c plus 9. So this becomes negative 12 equals 12a plus 18c. We have those two equations. What I'm going to do is divide this equation by 6. So this will be negative 2 equals 2a plus 3c. Now we can subtract those two equations together to get the value. So let's do that. 2a plus 4c equals negative 4. 2a plus 3c equals negative 2. Subtract to each other. 2a will be cancelled out. C is equal to negative 2. We have that, and let's plug in c equals negative 2 in 2a plus 4c equals negative 4. So 2a negative 8 equals negative 4. 2a equals 4. A equals 2. We have all those values, a, b, c, d. Now let's just add them up. A plus b plus c plus d. A is 2, b is 1, c is negative 2, and d is 1. So 2 and negative 2 cancelled out, and it's just 2. So the answer for this question is B. Okay, this question has compute the improper integral. So you see 0 to infinity x e to the minus 5x dx. So when you have an improper integral, you're going to do limit b to the infinity. Just make another like alphabet or like anything, any variable. goes into infinity, and then substitute that alphabet into the bound. So like 0 to b, x e to the minus 5x dx. Now this just becomes, u and b substitution. So when you have like a Layard formula, Layard is L is log, I is inverse trig, A is algebraic, T is trig, and E is exponential. And we see algebraic function and exponential. So our u will be x, and du will be dx, and db is just e to the minus 5x dx. So b becomes e to the minus 5x over negative 5. Negative 5. There we go. We have that. And then let's do ub minus b b du integral. U is x, b is e to negative 5x over negative 5. So this just becomes negative x over 5, e to the minus 5x minus 5 e to the minus 5x dx. This becomes positive. So negative x over 5 e to the negative 5x. And then this will just become negative 25 e to the negative 5x. And integrating from 0 to b. Let's put that. It's negative b over 5 e to the negative 5b minus e to the negative 5b over 25 minus 0 over 5 e to the minus 5x 0 minus e to the negative 5 times 0 over 25. So negative infinity, e to the negative infinity is just 0. This just becomes 0. This also becomes 0. So 0 minus, negative 0 over 5 is just 0. So it's 0, and it just becomes 0 minus e to the negative 5 times 0 over 25, which is 0 plus e to the 0 over 25, which e to the 0 is just 1. So this is 1 over 25. So the answer for this question is E. Okay, so this question asks to determine which are true and which are false. And the first one is 0 to 1 ln x dx is divergent. Let's look at it. So 0 to 1 ln x, so we're going to multiply 1 to just make sure it can be computed. So, and if you use the Layard formula, logarithmic, L comes first, and 1 is algebraic. So u becomes ln x, and du becomes 1 over x dx, and db becomes 1 dx, and b is just x. Now you use ub minus b du formula. This becomes x ln x minus x 1 over x dx, x ln x minus 1 dx, x ln x minus x, and it's from 0 to 1. If you compute it, then it becomes 1 ln 1 minus 1 minus 0 ln 0 minus 0. This just becomes 0, and ln 0 becomes 0, and this just becomes negative 1. So this value actually converges, so this is not divergent. Second one, 1 to infinity, 1 over x to the p dx is convergent, and p is greater than 1. This is just p series definition. If p is greater than 1, it converges. So this is right. And number 3, 1 to infinity, 1 over 1 over x square root of x dx is convergent. 1 to infinity, 1 over x 1/2 dx. Since p is 1/2 and p is less than 1, this is going to be divergent. So this is not right. So 1 and 3 are not right, and 2 is right, which is C. So this question asks which of the following sequences converge. So let's look at the first one. N squared over n cubed plus 1. N is 1 to infinity. And if you set limit n goes to infinity, n squared over n cubed plus 1, this will eventually converge into just 1 over n, which 1 over n, when n goes to infinity, this is just 1 over infinity, and this is just 0. So this one actually converge. So 1 is right. Let's look at the second one. 1 plus negative 1 n over 2, which n is 1 to infinity. If you plug it in n equals 1, this just becomes 1 plus negative 1 over 2, which is just 0. N is 2, 1 plus negative 1 squared over 2, which is just 1, and n equals 3. 1 plus negative 1 to the cube, oh boy, 1 plus negative 1 cubed over 2, this is just becomes 0. This will just like kind of repeat 0, 1, 0, 1. So it doesn't really converge to any value. Instead, it will just repeat 0, 1, 0, 1. So this will be diverging. So 2 is not right. And let's look at the third one. Cosine n over n plus 1 when n equals 1 and infinity. Okay, cosine graph is usually bounded by negative 1 to 1. So if you divide that value by n plus 1, if you do that, cosine n divided by n plus 1, this will be greater and equal to 1 over n plus 1. This will be greater and equal to negative 1 over n plus 1 and smaller and equal to 1 over n plus 1. And if this n goes to infinity, this will just be negative 1 n plus 1, negative 1 to infinity, 0, and 1 over n plus 1, 1 over infinity, this will just equal to 0. So this one converges to 0. So the third one is right. So this makes this question. So for the answer for this question is E. Okay, this question is how many of the following statements are correct? Okay, let's look at the first one. Limit n goes to infinity, 1 plus 1 over n to the n. This is just a definition of E. So this one converges to the value of E, and which is not right in the first option. And the second one, limit n goes to infinity, e to the negative n. So if you draw an E graph, e to the negative infinity goes to 0. So this is right. Third one, limit n goes to infinity, inverse tangent n is pi over 2. So if you draw a tangent graph, it's like looking like this, right? And this is pi over 2, this is negative pi over 2. And if you flip it, so when you're like drawing the inverse tangent graph, you just flip it in the side, and this will just become pi over 2, and this will be negative pi over 2. So if you look at, since n is going to infinity, positive infinity, this is like reaching to pi over 2. So the third one is right. The fourth one, limit n goes to infinity, n over n plus 1. The plus 1 won't be matter because it's like already infinity. Like you're adding some kind of like a small minimum number in infinity, it doesn't matter. So it'll eventually just reach to n over n, which will just be 1, which is right. So 2, 3, 4 are right. So we have 3 correct statements. So the answer for this question is D.